Chesed. I do not understand what I do, but for what I want I do, Chesed. For things to differ, they must differ either by being or by non-being. Chesed. Simeon, son of Shelumiah. But since being is that which makes them identical, they cannot differ by being. And if I do what I do not want to... Jeez, is the whole thing like this? Ahiez or... Pedazur. That really means something, doesn't it? Subtitles not come on? Did I not do that right? I'm not seeing any subtitles of these conversations in ambient. Maybe I wasn't watching. Maybe I didn't see. Alright. Oh, it's at the top there. I was expecting to be at the bottom.
Andraste didn't have grand clerics telling her what to do, but she managed nonetheless. You expect us to be like Andraste.
Oh, that's right. Andraste is their Jesus.
Make up watch over you.
I think Andraste was like burned at the stake or something and then became a god or something. And then you get this talk about their head honcho being like most holy, they call her, and divine. I think she's like their pope, but like taken a step further even than Catholics would view the pope as not just able to speak for God, but in the case of their most holy, when you call something most holy and divine, that sounds to me like that they are a kind of a god in themselves or something. That's a little unusual. It's interesting. Alright, a chant for the departed. Let's see what this world says about the dead and how we should chant for them. The light shall lead her safely through the paths of this world and into the next. The light. Well, what's the light? That's interesting. For she who trusts in the Maker, fire is her water. As the moth sees light and goes toward flame, she should see fire and go towards light. The veil holds no uncertainty for her, and she will know no fear of death, for the Maker shall be her beacon, and her shield, her foundation, and her sword. Now that sounds a little bit, borrowing from the Psalms a little bit. Transfigurations 10:1, often sung by mourners as they light candles. So I guess the questions I have are, what do they mean by light? In the Psalms and in the Old Testament, light is synonymous with wisdom, with truth. But is that what that is meant here? Through the paths of this world and into the next. For she who trusts in the Maker, fire is her water. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Fire. As the moth sees light and goes toward flame, she should see fire and go towards light. So maybe in the process of dying, they see fire, and they want you to say, fire is good, go to the fire, because that's like water, it sustains you. She sees fire and goes towards the light. Veil holds no uncertainty for her, and she will know no fear of death, for the Maker shall be her beacon and her shield, her foundation, and her sword. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that fire stuff, but maybe when people die in the Dragon Age world, they see fire and they're supposed to go toward it.
I do not believe.
Chantry hierarchy. Okay, getting more into the organized side of this organized religion. The divine is the titular head of the Chantry. Although since the schism split the Imperial Chantry into its own faction, there are now in fact two divines at any one time. One divine, informally called the White Divine, is a woman housed in the Grand Cathedral in Valroyo. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce that, I don't know. The other, known as the Black Divine, is a man housed in the Argent, I'm not sure how you pronounce that word, spire in Minrathaus. Neither divine recognizes the existence of the other, and the informal names are considered sacrilegious. Oh, so White Divine, Black Divine. No matter the gender, a divine is addressed as most holy or your perfection. Holy crap. Beneath the rank of divine is the Grand Cleric. So, if anything, I feel like what they're saying in the world of Dragon Age is that the higher up in authority you go in the church of a monotheistic organized religion, maybe in their mind Catholicism, or Christianity and the more maybe traditional, more largely structured denominations that have more kind of a connection to each other, like the Lutheran denomination or the Presbyterian denomination, where really you have all these individual churches, but they all are answering to higher authorities within that structure, as opposed to like the type of church I attend, which is an evangelical free church, where there is a higher organization and they have a kind of like a statement of faith, that if you're an evangelical free church, you say that you agree with that statement of faith, but beyond that, you're not getting money funding from this larger organization. You're not answering to any of these authorities. There's no authorities that each individual local evangelical free church is answering to, really. Whereas that would be very much not the case with the Lutheran Church or a Presbyterian Church, or certainly not with the Catholic Church. So it looks like they're kind of drawing inspiration certainly from that more than, say, from like your local Baptist church. Actually, I don't know what the hierarchy is like in the Baptist church, or your evangelical free church or something. So it sounds like is there a schism? Although since schism split the Imperial Chantry into its own faction, there are now, in fact, 2 divines. So you've got an Imperial Chantry, I guess, and then maybe another Chantry. And the head of one of those chantries is a woman, which people informally call the White Divine. No, in fact, 2 divines at any one time. Housed in the Grand Cathedral. The other, known as the Black Divine, is a man housed in the Argent Spire. And so I don't know which one's associated with the Empire. Neither divine recognizes the existence of the other. I wonder if that's a way of saying that they don't recognize the authority, or they're just like, I am the only divine. That's probably what they're going for. I can't imagine they mean that they literally do not recognize that other person exists. And the informal names are considered sacrilegious. No matter the gender, a divine is addressed as most holy or your perfection. Wow. So yeah, back to what I was saying before. It looks like they're kind of saying that the higher up you go in the hierarchy, the more highly these people think of themselves. And therefore, the more hypocritical they are, the higher up in the chain of authority you go. Yeah. Although I do think, I don't know, if not now, or once, if not now, then certainly once upon a time, I think in Catholicism, the Pope is referred to as your holiness, but your perfection? I don't know. Do Catholics do like, true blue Roman Catholics think of the Pope as being perfect? I don't know if that's the case or not. Beneath the rank of divine is the Grand Cleric. Each Grand Cleric presides over numerous chantries and represents the highest religious authority for their region. They travel to Valroyo when the College of Clerics convenes, but otherwise remain where they are assigned. All Grand Clerics are addressed as Your Grace. Okay? Beneath the Grand Cleric is the Mother, or in the Imperial Chantry, the Father. Okay, so in the Imperial Chantry must be the one with the dude, the guy as the head. Sorry, dude is a leans toward being a male pronoun, I guess. Not a pronoun, but term, but I do see dude as being non-gender specific at the end of the day. Okay, so if a mother is in charge of a particular chantry, revered is appended to her title. These are the priests responsible for administering to the spiritual well-being of their flock. A mother or revered mother is addressed as Your Reverence. Brothers and sisters form the rank and file of the chantry and consist of 3 main groups. Wow, affirmed, initiates, and clerics. So, unlike in biblical Christianity, where all believers are brothers and sisters, under the chantry, it looks like if you have some kind of title, affirmed, initiate, or cleric, then you're considered a brother or a sister. Affirmed are the lay brethren of the chantry. those regular folk who have turned to the... Oh, wait, okay, cross that out. So the affirmed brothers and sisters are those regular folk who have turned to the Chantry for succor. Often they are people who have led a difficult or irreligious life and have chosen to go into seclusion. Oh, so they're not just believers. They're people that are like going for succor. Succor meaning, I guess, in this case, shelter from the world. Chosen to go into seclusion, or even orphans and similar unfortunates who are raised into the Chantry life. So they like live at the church building. The affirmed take care of the Chantry and are in turn afforded a life of quiet contemplation, no questions asked. Interesting. Only those folk who take vows become initiates. These are men and women in training, whether in academic knowledge or the martial skills of a warrior. So there's definitely like this kind of combative aspect that's being assigned to the Chantry. That there's like this military branch of it, which is, I think, how maybe some people view Christians as being combative, at least verbally or, philosophically or emotionally combative or something like that, which you certainly see a brand of, or, a representation of Christianity in the media that's, kind of hateful and combative and stuff. But what's funny is, I kind of wonder if media just kind of tends to highlight on that because it's sensational, because I know virtually no combative believers. And maybe that's just kind of like because of the values of the church that I go to, and but I really don't know. I couldn't name one to you what I would call combative. I'd really have to search to try and name somebody that it is. So anyway, but yeah, they've got that. They're attached to this kind of military there. So I don't know. Maybe that's saying something about their views of Christianity or not. I don't know. Whether in academic knowledge or the martial skills of a warrior. All initiates receive an academic education, although only those who seek to become Templars learn how to fight in addition. All right. Clerics are the true academics of the Chantry, those men and women who have dedicated themselves to the pursuit of knowledge. They are often found in Chantry archives, sages presiding over libraries of books and arcane knowledge. The most senior of these clerics placed in charge of such archives are given the title of elder. Interesting. In the New Testament, elders are kind of like the body of leaders of a local church community. Not necessarily those that, elders should have the ability to teach. We see that, I think, in 1 Timothy, that describes, what should be true of an elder. I could be wrong on that reference. I think it's 1 Timothy. So they should be able to teach, but they're not, I guess the assumption is that they are dedicated to study as well. But they're specifically calling the guys that do the hardcore studying and archive research and stuff, those are the elders. That's interesting. Although such a rank is still beneath that of mother. All other brothers and sisters are addressed simply by noting their title before their names, such as Brother Genitivi. From a guide for ambassadors from Ravane. Interesting. Okay, so, definitely like the more super organized and I would say traditional branches of Christianity. They're definitely pulling from that because they got titles and names for everybody everywhere, and ranks and all this kind of stuff. Founding of the Chantry. Okay. Cordillus Dracon, king of the city-state of Orlais, was a man of uncommon ambition. In the year 15 Ancient, the young king began construction of a great temple dedicated to the Maker, and declared that by its completion he would not only have united the warring city-states of the south, he would have brought an Andrastian belief to the world. In -3 Ancient, the temple was the other one -3? Yeah, -15 Ancient. Okay, so in -3 Ancient, the temple was completed. There in its heart, Dracon knelt before the eternal flame of Andraste and was crowned ruler of the Empire of Orlais. His first act, so he founded the church and then promptly became ruler of the land. It's crowned ruler of the Empire of Orlais. His first act as emperor to declare the Chantry as the established Andrastian religion of the empire. Interesting. Okay, so they're definitely attaching the church, the organized church, to the government very strongly here. It took 3 years and several hundred votes before Orlessa of Monstimard was elected to lead the new Chantry. Upon her coronation as divine, she took the name Justinia in honor of the disciple who recorded Andraste's songs. So you've got Andraste, which I remember reading about in Dragon Age, the previous Dragon Age games. And then you've got the Chantry, which is like the organized religion that worships Andraste, which was started by this king guy. So Justinia is the one that primarily looks like recorded Andraste's songs. Teachings, I assume, is the equivalent here. In that moment, the ancient era ended and the divine age began. Now that's interesting, because when we do BC and AD, I believe that's marked by the life of Jesus. I'm not sure where the 1 AD is supposed to begin, if that's his birth or his after his resurrection or crucifixion or something like that. But I know that Jesus is the one that's splitting our calendar in half. But Andraste isn't splitting their calendar in half. It's the birth of the church that's splitting their calendar in half. So I wonder what that is saying. Is that saying that the church is kind of seeing themselves maybe as even more central than the one that they would say that they worship? Interesting. All right. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too deep into that, but that's what that seems to be saying to me, is that they are saying that the Chantry views themselves as more important than possibly the one that they say that they worship. Does that say something about their view of Catholicism or their view of traditional Christianity? I don't know. Interesting, though. And do we as believers, are we guilty of that? Are we guilty of, giving lip service to the fact that we worship Jesus, but really at the end of the day, we're giving a lot more authority to the religious leaders around us and giving their words equal weight or more weight than the words of Jesus and the words of those apostles who spoke for Jesus after his resurrection during their ministry on earth. Interesting. The children of Andraste. All right, we're getting a great religious education today. I might edit this footage into a whole video of its own. There are many misconceptions regarding Andraste's bloodline, Monsieur. This is due, I should think, to a general lack of knowledge regarding Andraste's mortal life. Understandable, considering the many cults that arose following her death. Everyone sought to claim Our Lady for their own culture or claimed some aspect of her existence was a lie. All of them complete fabrications. My order has done considerable research to ascertain the truth. Now this is interesting to me. Because I think one of the popular ideas about Jesus is that there's a lot we really can't know about him. That his followers just kind of got the details wrong or made things up, or there was a little bit of hero worship there that kind of colored the details or fabricated details altogether. And then you've got like these like lost gospels and stuff, like the Gospel of Dude the Third or whatever. I can't remember what they're called. I remember doing some reading into them. Gospel of Barnabas, is that one of them? I can't remember. But there's these other gospels out there, and that I think some skeptics or people that really don't want to value the Bible as like a true representation, a completely accurate representation of the life of Jesus, then they'll kind of bring up these other ones and say, well, what about these? See, we really don't know and stuff. And the truth is, when you begin to look into these things, even just a little bit, in my opinion, but even more so the more you look into them, you see that overwhelmingly these other quote-unquote gospels, they're just they're not near as reliable and trustworthy because of where they came from and where we can date them from, how we can figure out where they came from, and I mean just the reliability of the manuscripts of the gospels compared to these other quote unquote gospels. It's just, I mean, the difference is really huge. But I mean, that's where I think people will want to go. They'll want to say that, there was some, there's some murkiness in terms of like the information we have about Jesus. And so who can you really trust? And at the end of the day, who really knows? And therefore, why should we really be held accountable to believe any, particular thing that the gospel says, the gospel accounts say about Jesus, So that seems to be kind of what they're doing here, is they're kind of trying to introduce doubt about Andraste, We all know Andraste and the betrayer raised 5 children. The eldest 3 were sons. Oh, yeah, I think there was someone that betrayed Andraste, and maybe they were like a couple or something at one point. I can't remember. I really read up on all this stuff. I'm sure there's a wiki out there that will reproduce all this information if you want to look into it. But the betrayer raised 5 children, and of course there's that whole thing with the one of those Tom Hanks movies based on those books by what's his dude, that was all about Jesus having kids, really, and how it's all been a big secret. So they're obviously, riffing on that here as well. The eldest 3 of these kids were sons, Iseroth, Evrion, and Verald. The rule of what was once southern Tevinter was split among them. Iseroth was given the west, what is today Orlais. Evrion was given the east, what is today the Free Marches. Verald was given the central Planazine, what is today Nivara. What became of these men and their legacies is the stuff of legend, and the majority of claimants to Andraste's bloodline link back to one of them. None of the 3 sons, however, were born of Andraste. They were born of the betrayer's concubine, Gillivan. People choose to overlook the fact that Andraste came from the Alamari tribesmen, and that they were barbarians, not the Fereldans we know today. They were savage warriors who took concubines in addition to their wives, and because Andraste was thought to be too weak to bear children, the betrayer took Gillivan to provide him heirs, which she did. After her death, the sons were raised as Andraste's own. Later in life, Andraste proved predictions wrong and had 2 daughters by the betrayer, Ebris and Vivial. Okay. They were kept out of the public eye and not permitted to marry, though both had consorts. Ebris had but 1 child, Ali Vemar, who perished on a voyage to Denerim less than a month after her mother fell to plague and without children of her own. The younger daughter, Vivial, was more controversial, a strong-headed woman who defied her family by falling in love with a mage of Tevinter, Regulen. Vivial and Regulen went into self-imposed exile as the Exalted March began, and into hiding following Andraste's betrayal and murder. What became of Vivial and her descendants is largely unknown for one. So yeah, so in this mythology, Jesus got married to Judas, Judas Iscariot. What became of Vivial and her descendants is largely unknown for one primary reason. She had only daughters. Each of those daughters only had daughters. They married into other families and took other names, and in the chaos of the Second Blight, all traces of survivors were lost. Andraste's true bloodline, if it exists, lies solely in the descendants of Vivial, and the suspicion of my order is that it produces only daughters. Thus, the claims of your young man, Monsieur, are highly suspect. From a letter by Sister Galena of the Augustan Order. Dragon 912. Alright, interesting. The Maker. Lots of religious education today. There was no word for heaven or for earth, for sea or sky. All that existed was silence. Then the voice of the Maker rang out, the first word, and his word became all that might be. Dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities. Clearly, with this whole idea of the word and the origins of creation, they're clearly pulling from the Bible, or at least how they view Christianity. And his word became all that might be, dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities, and from it made his firstborn. And he said to them, in my image I forge you. Hello. To you I give dominion over all that exists. By your will may all things be done. Then in the center of heaven he called forth a city with towers of gold, streets with music for cobblestones, and banners which flew without wind. There he dwelled, waiting to see the wonders his children would create. So that clearly seems to be a reference to the New Jerusalem described in the book of Revelation. The children of the Maker gathered before his golden throne and sang hymns of praise unending. But their songs were the songs of the cobblestones. They shone with the golden light reflected from the Maker's throne. They held forth the banners that flew on their own. And the voice of the Maker shook the Fade, saying, "In my image I have wrought my firstborn. You have been given dominion over all that exists. By your will, all things are done." So the Maker's giving a lot of authority to his creations here, and there's some truth to that, you know, in terms of like it's parallel in Christianity that we were made to be to have dominion over the earth and to be stewards of creation. But that's a pretty strong statement. By your will, all things are done. Yet you do nothing. The realm I have given you is formless, ever changing. And he knew he had wrought amiss. So the Maker turned from his firstborn and took from the Fade a measure of its living flesh and placed it apart from the spirits and spoke to it. Okay, so he took from the Fade. So the Fade was either eternally existing or the Maker had made it before he made the rest of creation. And took from the Fade a measure of its living flesh. So there was flesh in the Fade. At least at one point there was physical existence in the spirit world. And placed it apart from the spirits and spoke to it, saying, "Here I decree opposition in all things. For earth, sky, for winter, summer, for darkness, light. By my will alone is balance sundered and the world given new life." I really don't know what that's describing going on there. "And no longer was it formless, ever changing, but held fast, immutable." Okay. So maybe creation, okay, humans were supposed to kind of bring stability and a fixed existence to creation, but they didn't do their job. Did they just waste their time worshiping him, and he didn't like that? Oh, that would be interesting if that's what's intended there. Because I think another view of God is that he's not so into himself that he would want people to worship him. But that really doesn't make sense, because if you objectively know that you are perfect and that you are the best thing, then it's right for people to focus attention on you. They're going to get the greatest fulfillment they possibly could from focusing on you if you, really are, all that in a bag of chips, So God is right, and he is good and loving to command us to worship him, because he knows that in the end, we will get our greatest fulfillment from fixating on him. Anyway, that's a bit of a rabbit trail. I don't know if that's what it's intended here, but that's what we saw here, that they were worshiping him and not ruling the world like he told them to. And so he didn't like that. Interesting. Okay, let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. I got lost. Okay, and so no longer was it formless, ever changing, because the Maker fixed things, made them firm and immutable, but held fast, immutable, with words for heaven and for earth, sea, and sky. At last did the Maker from the living world make men. Oh, so these other children were not men. They were maybe angels or some equivalent? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Because men aren't being made until just now. Immutable is the substance of the earth, with souls made of dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities. Then the Maker said, "To you, my second-born, I grant this gift. In your heart shall burn an unquenchable flame, all-consuming and never satisfied." Okay? "And from the Fade I crafted you, and to the Fade you shall return." Okay, so we're made from this kind of spiritual essence or whatever of the Fade. "In each night in dreams, that you may always remember me." So our connection to the Maker and remembering him is through our dreams. "Then the Maker sealed the gates of the golden city, and there he dwelled, waiting to see the wonders his children would create." Okay. Canticle of Threnodes, 5, 1 through 8. All right. Interesting stuff. Okay. So, I do think this stuff is worth kind of considering, worth looking into. It's the stuff I'm reading now. A lot of people aren't going to read that. But what I have noticed in these games is what I see written in these books, I see played out in how characters behave in the world. And so, if you want to get a quicker view of kind of what this world is like and what you can expect and what the philosophy is driving it, I think it's worth looking at these books and things that are kind of laying around. And I think it is an interesting potential commentary on what creative types and what maybe people in general, I don't know who, how many people would share the view of the people that wrote this game and the games in this series. But I think it does give us an indication of how they view Christianity, or at least how they view the more traditional brands of Christianity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's good. I like to have 6 saves total that I can then cycle through. And this does seem to be kind of, I suspect, what they think of as an exaggerated view of some version of Christianity that they have in their head. Yeah.
Chain him! I want him prepared for travel to the capital for trial.
Disregard that, and leave us.
You walk a dangerous line, Seeker.
The breach is stable, but it is still a threat. I will not ignore it.
I did everything I could to close the breach. It almost killed me.
Yet you live. A convenient result insofar as you're concerned.
Have a care, Chancellor. The breach is not the only threat we face.
Someone was behind the explosion at the Conclave. Someone most holy did not expect. Perhaps they died with the others, or have allies who yet live.
I am a suspect?
You, and many others.
But not the prisoner.
I heard the voices in the temple. The Divine called to him for help.
So his survival, that thing on his hand, all a coincidence.
Providence. The Maker sent him to us in our darkest hour.
So, very interesting what we see going on in this scene right now. You see that the higher, again, the higher up you get in authority, and this is the same guy we talked to before, so maybe he's just one jerk, but I don't think so. It seems to be that the higher up you go in authority, the more judgmental they get, the more angry they get, the more hypocritical they get, and the more they should be potentially suspected of wrongdoing, as we see going on in this scene. So there is a clear distrust of authority in organized religion being represented in the Dragon Age games. Alright. Providence, the Maker sent him to us in our darkest hour. How do I want to respond to this? Blessed be the Maker? No. Because as I play this guy, I want to treat him as someone who is... This is just a little game I play. You're going to think I take things way too seriously by approaching it this way. But it's something I just do kind of for fun, half as an intellectual exercise, and half just to see, can a seeker of truth, really exist in this world, and how close could I, how will I be treated if I really want to just seek truth? I'm not interested in blindly jumping onto this religion, but at the same time, I'm interested in learning about it and evaluating it for my own. So I'm not ready to say, "Blessed be the Maker." What is that thumbs up for? Does that mean I'm being nice with that answer? Really? So does this mean I'm going to be antagonistic if I reject the idea I'm not a chosen one? I don't know. Maybe I am a chosen one. You believe I'm innocent. What more do you want? That definitely sounds not nice. Providence, the Maker sent him to us in our darkest hour. So I don't want to say that. I don't want to say, "Are you serious?" Because maybe the Maker did send me. I want to know more about the Maker to see if it's a legitimate, if it's a legitimate idea. This idea of the Maker that they're proposing. Then again, maybe I could say, "Blessed be the Maker," but I have in my head an idea of who the Maker is by necessity, and doesn't necessarily line up with the Chantry, but that doesn't mean I can't say "Blessed be the Maker" right now. But then again, if I say "Blessed be the Maker," for all I know, it's going to say something about, something that would imply that I am aligned with the Chantry. Again, I do not like not knowing what I'm going to say. It it prevents me from role-playing the way I want to role-play. And it just kind of, there just seems to be an effort on BioWare's part. We have a story, we want to tell it the way we want to tell it, you know. They don't want me to know how they're going to tell the story, you know. I'll just go with this. You think I'm innocent?
So, you've changed your mind about me.
I was wrong. Perhaps I still am.
You want a holy war? See, there's lots of... They also seem to be drawing from some of the worst times in church history, which I'm not even sure in terms of the actual universal church, the universal body of Christ. I'm not even sure that you would say that that the Catholic Church, especially at that time, was part of the actual body of Christ. I'm not sure what was going on. I'm not a historian enough to be able to kind of figure out, were these people really following Scripture? Were they really following Jesus? Because of all the terrible things that were done in the name of Jesus, you know. It's hard to say if those in the Catholic Church at that time were even really believers, or what was going on in their hearts. I don't know. But anyway, this really seems to be drawing from a really dark period of what historians would consider Christianity. I'm not sure if I would consider it Christianity. At best, Christianity gone horribly, horribly wrong, and not according to Scripture. But that's, you know, maybe their view of. I mean, I think that still a lot of people will hang on to that period of history and use that as their smokescreen for not embracing Jesus, or certainly no form of organized Christian religion today. Say, oh, but evil things have been done in the name of Jesus, you know. Never mind the fact that they, you know, were totally unbiblical. All right, so yeah, let's see what's going on here. What do you want, a holy war? Is that what this is?
You're trying to start a holy war.
We are already at war. You are already involved. Its mark is upon you. As to whether the war is holy, that depends on what we discover.
ChristianGeekCentral.com